Good morning. Today I want to go over what's in your kit. If you didn't pick up your kit, no worries. Whatever you bought will be great for this class. But for people that did get the kit, I want to go over the things that are in it because I tucked some funny pieces of paper in there. And I think that's the part I want to make sure I talk to you about. First, you're going to have a plastic palette knife, which will not be stained and dirty like this one. It'll be kind of clean and fresh and nice. You'll have an extra tube of white. This is very important. Most of us don't add enough white to our colors. And I always say that this is sort of one of the most important tips I can give people in using color is to add more white. But I'll talk about that more later when I'm talking about mixing color. You have a box of pastels, which I do want to open and show you because they're very beautiful. Although by now you've probably opened it yourself. There you go. We're going to use the box of pastels a little later for a kind of formal color wheel, like we're going to use the gouache for to begin with, and some optical mixing assignments. And then after that, did you hear that? That was my pastels falling out of their little cubbies. After that, I will invite you to use the pastels in any of the subsequent assignments that you like to. So if you love pastel, you can use it lots. If you hate it, you can sort of push it aside. Then there's the box of paint, which the outside of it looks like this. Inside you will find a clamshell with all these colors. And I want to just go over this really quickly because there are a few colors in here I probably would prefer you used a little less. And it's everything over here on the left side. The black, the browns, the ochre, and the green. Black is a color that can be a little bit dead on compositions and paintings. It's not dead inherently. It's just that sometimes the tube of black is a little blah. Actually, a lot of these are a little blah until you add a little something to them. So what I would try when you're mixing up brown, if you're using brown and dark brown and black, is to try to make your own black by mixing a bunch of other colors up, because that color will be much more interesting than your tube of black will be. Also the green, if you use the green, I mean, you'll want to use the green on plenty of things, but for this first color wheel project, avoid the green, and I'll remind you, because it's already mixed, and we kind of want to learn to make all the colors out of just 6 of them. There's another tube of white in there, which is great because you'll probably need it. There are 2 yellows, and you know I've talked briefly about warm and cool, and that applies to all colors. Every color that you see will have a temperature. It'll look a little bit warm or a little bit cool, or maybe it'll be even really hard to tell. But you'll have a warm and a cool yellow, and it's the lemony yellow that is the cooler one, and the one that's a little more egg yolk-like, a little warmer, more like orange, is the warmer yellow. Red too, very easy to tell. Your warmer red tends toward orange or fiery like colors, so it's warmer. And the cooler red will look more like red violet or purple. It'll look more like there's more blue in it. Then the 2 blues. Now, these tube printings that are on the outside, the label, that is not necessarily exactly what your color is going to look like. I'm sure you all know this by now. But the one that is the cooler blue is the one that looks a little more purpley, if that's possible to say. That'll be your cooler blue. And the warmer blue will be the one that looks a little green or a little teal. I'm not sure what they're calling this one, but the names are sort of less important to us than getting the colors to look like we want them to, and to be kind of aware of cool and warm, because that push and pull is very important in painting. All right, now the paper, the most important part, finally. Okay, you got a tablet of Bristol paper, Bristol board, and that is sort of mostly what we're going to be using. For the pastels, though, I put in some pieces of pastel paper. Pastel paper has a different character. It's usually rougher, and it's toned. It has colors. I gave you some in colors because I don't want us to draw right on white paper with the pastels. I want to use a toned paper, but I'll talk more about that when we do pastels. For some things, I'm going to want you to use white paper, and for those, you can just use either sketchbook paper or the Bristol board. And there's also 2 sheets of white paper that you might think, why is this extra Bristol board stuffed in here? And it's not Bristol board, it's watercolor paper. If you look at it closely, you'll see, and I'm sure you can't see it on here, it has a texture to it. And watercolor paper often has a texture, and watercolorists often let that show through because they use transparent paint, and you can kind of see that bumpy texture. And I just want you to have some to experiment on to see the difference. You might really like it. I know I do. So that's what you've got in your kit. I think that's everything. And I'm going to talk further at length in another film about mixing these colors up shortly. Thank you for watching. That's all.